You're listening to We're Talking Sports with Ben Burns and Richie Donnell. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Now, without further ado, Ben Burns and Richie Donnell. All right, everybody, welcome to We're Talking Sports, third episode. Happy Wednesday, Richie.
Oh, yeah, hump day.
Hump day, yeah, there you go. How was your last couple days?
Starting to get a little busy. Semester's starting to wind down. We've been hit with some big projects.
Yeah.
Some sports classes here.
Yeah, but good thing we're not going to talk about. We're not talking class here. We're talking sports.
Just talking sports.
Yeah.
So today's agenda, I think it's a little informative today versus the regular style of debating.
Informative, okay.
Yeah, but we're going to talk the Sixers, how bad they are.
Fun.
Got off the schneim last night, so to speak.
The schneim?
With the first
schneim?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that a word?
Oh, yeah. Hey,
The
it's
schneim.
made up. Look it up. Kobe Bryant wrote a letter. We'll talk about that a little
It was
bit.
more like a poem, but it didn't rhyme. It didn't rhyme. I was upset
And then we
with
just have some baseball free agency stuff, man.
Ooh.
Big signings yesterday.
Sure to be a
some
hit.
trades that went down this morning. Right. And then championships week.
Hopefully none of the teams are going to strike out with those signings now.
Yeah. And then just go forward with some college football news.
You want those home runs for signings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great pun.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even realize that. All right. So college football, very exciting.
College football, some big coaching news out there.
Yeah, we just talked about Georgia on Monday firing their 15-year head coach, and now I think they were listening to us. They were like, you know what? Before Ben and Richie's show on Wednesday, we better get a new head coach in.
Yep, and
I think that's what's going on.
I think they made, in quotations, the smart choice.
Oh, I wonder who it is.
I don't know.
Did they hire Shaka Smart?
Wrong sport.
I shouldn't be on this show then.
No. That's all right. But hey, keep tuning in, and we'll get into it in a little bit.
All right, so you were talking about the 76ers. They're not doing so hot last time I checked.
No. But they did get a win last night.
They did win, okay.
They beat the Lakers.
Against
Kobe's
homecoming.
Yep.
His last game, or I shouldn't say.
In Philadelphia. Last game in Philadelphia.
Right.
But so they're 1-18 right now.
He scored 13 points in the first quarter, too.
And then he decided he was going to shoot 7 for 26 in the entire game.
What was going on there? What do you think? Was it the nerves?
A little emotional.
Did it kind of start to sink in for him?
I think so. When he's back, he's back in Philadelphia where he grew up, and it kind of all started for him.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be an emotional whirlwind. So I think it just kind of finally set in. But he's had a rough year altogether.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was too surprising. It just, you want to see him do well.
Absolutely.
On the final go around, but the Sixers did get the win, which now they're 1-18. They end a 28-game losing streak, which was tied for the most in American professional sports.
Wow.
So I got a list here of 4 teams. So obviously it's a different sport, but as bad as Philadelphia's been over the last 2 years, where would you consider them compared to the 0-16 Lions?
Wow. I got to think that they're better than the 0-16 Lions because that team had nobody besides Calvin Johnson, a very young and inexperienced Calvin Johnson. That was his rookie year. I mean, you can kind of say the same thing with the Sixers, with Jahlil Okafor, but they also have Nerlens Noel.
Yep, he's been there a couple years now, but yeah, I saw that 0-16 team play, and they were very bad. I was actually at the Green Bay game where Green Bay won and Detroit finished 0-16, and there was just a lot going on there, and they were very bad. But then you got the 0-2-0-3 Cavaliers before LeBron got there, and recently, I believe it was Ricky Davis who played for them, came out and said they were told to tank. Where would you put a team who...
It worked out pretty well for them.
It did. But where would you put a team who maybe is a lot of young guys trying and busting their tail up against a team that there's rumors of tanking? Would you say that you would take them just because they're actually trying to win, or that they're still just a worse team?
That's a tricky situation for me. I don't really think you can compare those two. I think with the younger team that's trying their hardest, obviously Philly has a lot of cap room.
Right.
And I want to believe they're going to get there eventually.
Yep.
I mean, it seems like every offseason everybody says, oh, Sixers,
They're going to be big in free agency because they got all this money. And
well, and even in the draft,
Right.
I mean, this year it was Okafor, the year before Noel. Embiid, Embiid, and then Noel the year before.
Right.
It's, I don't know. I don't know if I'm almost losing faith in the Sixers. I know they have a good head coach. Didn't they get him from the Spurs?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean.
So then it essentially comes back to the front office.
Yeah.
It's
0-18 though. I feel like this team is better than 0-18.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. They've played a number of close games where it could have went either way. They just came up on the short side. But I agree. I don't think they're as bad as their record says, but they got a lot of guys who may not be on an NBA roster if it wasn't for Philly. But now, talking about 0-18, the other team to go 0-18 in NBA history, the 09-10 Nets. I remember that, and they were brutal.
Probably the reason why they're now the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, that could be one of the very good reasons. But I just remember that team vividly because they were talking about that team could set the worst winning percentage in NBA history for a single season back when that was going on. And I mean, it's almost the same situation as Philly, where it's just you have nobody, and you got to find somebody to build upon. And then the 11-12 Bobcats.
Yeah.
A .108 winning percentage.
That's not very good.
And to think, I believe Jordan owned the team then? Did Jordan own the team then?
Yep.
So, I mean, you're talking about the greatest player in NBA history owning the worst team
Yeah.
in NBA history.
I don't know. That Bobcat name brings back a lot of pretty bad memories for them.
I agree.
So.
I agree. And this year, surprisingly, they're doing very well as the Hornets. I don't think many people predict them to do very well, but they are. So, I mean, kind of with the four teams we have and the other bad teams that you're aware of, where does this Philadelphia team rank for you?
I'm going to say it again. I don't think they're as bad as the 0-2-0-3 Cavs, the Nets, or the Bobcats, in my opinion. I think they have a strong young core.
Yep.
If they stay healthy, I think, and maybe add another superstar, I think they're a team that maybe isn't a playoff team, but is a lot better than 1-18.
Okay. And as we talked about, they got the first one against the Lakers. This morning, we read a little bit of Kobe's letter.
We did.
So it's an emotional letter. Kind of pretty much tells the story of Kobe.
Sure.
What did you get out of it? I mean, what stood out to you?
I think it just proved to me what I already knew, and that he is ridiculously passionate about basketball, probably more than anybody else ever to play the game. And I think I said that Monday, and I stand by it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, his retirement is going to be extremely emotional, not only for him, but obviously the fans he has around the world, because remember, he's very influential in Italy.
Yep.
He grew up there.
That's where his dad played. So let me ask you this: since we're talking about Kobe retiring, this question was brought up to me today. So when the Lakers decide to put Kobe's obviously going to go in their Hall of Fame, his numbers are going to get retired. Do they retire 8 or 24 or both?
I think they retire 24.
They retire 24. Okay.
I think number 8. When he wore number 8, I think he wasn't the leader of the team. It was Shaq.
Right.
Those were Shaq's teams.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can talk about that being one of the best 1-2 punches ever in the NBA, but still, that was Shaq's team, similar to how with MJ and Pippen, it was always Michael's team.
Right. Agreed.
So I think 24, he kind of had his own 1-2 championships, with the help of Gasol, but still, those were his teams.
Okay, so we're gonna switch a little bit here from basketball to baseball. And this morning, I brought something up to you, and you kind of chuckled.
Okay.
Miami offered their hitting coach job to Barry Bonds. Where do you think Barry Bonds can be as a coach? I mean, we all know what he did as a player. Steroids or not, he did some incredible things. Whether it's 73 home runs in a season or the MVPs that he won with Pittsburgh. We can't say when he started taking steroids, but what do you think Barry Bonds can offer a guy like Giancarlo Stanton, who's a power hitter, in terms of just being a hitting coach? Barry Bonds is considered to be one of the greatest hitters of all time, and he's going to a team who needs somebody to tutor these young players.
Yeah. If I'm being really optimistic about this, which I'm not, I guess I'm not a huge fan of Barry Bonds for one big reason.
Yeah. Hey, but, I mean, everybody's judgment on him.
Sure.
Like I said, that's why I wanted to get it out of the way with the steroid situation and just get into where you think he can be as a coach.
I think, like I said, being extremely optimistic, he has experience.
Yeah.
He's been in the, he was in the NL for forever.
Right.
So, sure, he knows how a clubhouse works. He knows, the environment in a dugout. So he brings that, obviously.
Yeah, because, I mean, somebody's similar situation. I believe Mark McGwire is still coaching, and there was a big thing about him.
He just got a job as the bench coach with the Padres.
With the Padres, okay.
Yep.
Because I know he started out, I believe, with St. Louis, and then moved to the Dodgers, I believe, as their hitting coach under Mattingly.
Yeah.
And then, like you said now, bench coach with the Padres, and he's still doing it. I mean, so I guess there is hope for a guy like Barry Bonds, who was under a lot of scrutiny as a player, but can help out some young guys. So let me ask you this. In professional sports, is any player worth $31 million a year?
I would say LeBron is. I would say maybe Brady 5 years younger. And Aaron Rodgers on the good day.
Okay. To that list, I think Miguel Cabrera is worth that.
Okay.
He got the 30 from Detroit. But apparently, the Boston Red Sox think David Price is worth $1 million to start, as last night he signed 7 years, $217 million.
Wow.
Now, if you have the money to afford it, by all means, hey, do whatever you want with your money.
You better be donating a lot to our government economy. Get us out of debt.
Something. But I mean, again, you named the guys in professional sports, not just one sport, but professional sports who you thought were worth $30 million, and
David Price does not land close.
Okay.
Anywhere near 31.
I agree. To me, David Price is in that range of a starting pitcher around 20, which is what great starting pitchers are going for nowadays, is 20. As a former Cy Young winner, he competes for it every year, and he's going to win with a lower ERA.
I might be saying this just because I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I mean, pitchers only play about 30 games a year.
Yep.
Starting pitchers. And I mean, I can't do the math on my head, but that's a lot of money per game.
Yeah, you're talking about almost
that's
roughly.
Ridiculous.
Starting pitchers usually get about 30 to 35 starts, just depending on where their team is.
He's getting $31 million a year. If he's starting 30 games, that's over $1 million a start.
And
I mean, you can even divide it, but if he's going to pitch about 100 pitches a game.
And just to put it in context for you, I mean, that's Alex Rodriguez money. When Alex Rodriguez signed 10 years, $275 million with the Yankees, I mean, that's a lot of money for one individual.
Baseball's a dying sport.
It's crazy. I mean, but of all teams, it doesn't surprise me that it's Boston.
Sure.
I mean,
of course.
If it was anybody, you'd figure it's either going to be the Dodgers, the Yankees, or the Red Sox. But now that David Price is getting $31 million a year, I mean, just off the top, how's Clayton Kershaw feeling right now?
Wow.
Who's arguably the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, either he's really happy that David Price signed this because now he's going to say, hey, I'm the best pitcher in baseball. I want this amount of money. And the Dodgers kind of can't really say a whole lot about it based on the market. Or he's pissed because he's got to play out the rest of his contract and he's going to be that much older when his time comes.
I'm going to say it right now. I'm going to make a bold statement.
Okay.
Eventually, I'm going to say in a couple years, Clayton Kershaw will be the highest paid athlete of all time.
All time.
All time.
Now, to add to your bold statement, I was given a bold statement by a buddy of mine. He said Kershaw will get $40 million a year.
That's about, I agree.
That's insane. For one athlete, I can't get my mind around that.
I think the Dodgers would pay him that.
I agree. So, speaking of big money, Johnny Cueto, a guy we're familiar with, pitched with the Reds, turned down $120 million. Is there anything in this world that can make you turn down $120 million?
I can think of a couple things.
But I mean, to turn down $120 million. Now, Arizona's not necessarily the best team. They're a rebuilding team. And he's coming off of a World Series with Kansas City, who he probably hopes to re-sign with.
Mm-hmm.
But $120 million is a lot of money.
How many years?
I believe it was 7. I'm not exactly sure on the years, but it just came out that he turned away $120 million. That's what the.
I mean, he was the guy that won Game 2 for them.
Yep, and
so.
he pitched after his dad.
He pitched the entire
his dad passed
game.
away.
Well, he didn't even know.
Right,
that's the thing.
Right. But some other big news: Detroit signed Jordan Zimmerman, a native of Wisconsin, a Stevens Point guy. Detroit signed him in to replace David Price, 5 years, $110 million. And then Baltimore is scared of losing Chris Davis, apparently. They think that he's going to demand big money. And they went out and traded for Mike Trumbo. And the A's got Yonder Alonso from the Padres this morning. So it seems like a lot of contenders are making big moves to try to stay on top.
And, I mean, you talk about Baltimore, the A's. Both of them don't have too much money to throw around.
Yeah, now, and I'm glad you brought that up. So let me get your opinion on this.
Okay.
To wrap up this baseball segment, will we ever see a salary cap?
No.
Never.
I wish we would with baseball, but I don't think so.
Even if with David Price, I mean, $31 million is a lot of money, and if Kershaw gets even more, now you also got to think about that in 3 to 5 years. Is Mike Trout? What's Mike Trout worth? You know, he's an MVP guy every year, and he's the face of new baseball, of the younger generation for baseball. I mean, does it ever get to a point where these salaries get so out of hand that the commissioner finally says, you know what, we have to put a wrap on this. We have to get this under control.
Well, and that's interesting you say that because we have a new commissioner
right.
of the MLB.
Yep.
Maybe he's going to knock some heads around, change a couple things. I don't see that happening too much because I think, Bud Selig, he was pretty well respected.
Very well respected. So hey, we covered 2 topics. I'm ready for a break. Come back.
You ready? All right.
We'll
gonna eat your Culver's.
Oh, dude, starving.
It smells good.
Maybe I'll give you a cheese curd.
Oh.
All right, and we'll get into some.
Have I been that good?
Hey, it's fantastic.
All right,
guys, we'll be back.
Hey, Richie, who do you think was the greatest Carolina Panther of all time?
Julius Peppers.
No way. I think it was Steve Smith. But hey, let us know what you think on our Facebook page. Go ahead and comment and be part of the debate. All right, we're back. That was a fun commercial.
Yeah, hey.
There's some pretty professional people on there.
Oh, yeah. I don't know where they find them.
I don't know.
Must be Cardinal Stretch.
That place, come on.
Of all places. So this week is Champions Week for college football. All the championship games are this weekend. Going to have some big implications on the playoff. Who's in, who's out. Some lasting impressions. Some teams might run the score up just to make sure that the committee knows that they're, that good or things like that.
Very fascinating.
So I got all the games written down. We're going to go through it one by one. We'll predict our winners and come back next week and see who kind of comes out on top.
All right.
So in the MAC, Mid-Atlantic Conference, we got Bowling Green and Northern Illinois. For me, I have a personal connection with Northern Illinois. One of my former players, Russell Chambers, give you a shout out, buddy. Plays there, and I always want to see them do the best that they can, and I hope that they come away with a big win this weekend.
Okay, you're going with Northern Illinois. I'll go with Bowling Green. A lot of people trash Bowling Green. They think they're too much. They focus too much on bowling. That is not true. They are a true football team.
They are.
They're great bowlers. Don't get me wrong. They're great bowlers. But I'm going Bowling Green.
They're a very good program. SEC.
This is. I know more about the SEC.
You know a little bit more about the SEC. Okay.
Yeah.
Alabama right now, as we agreed, probably has the Heisman front runner, Derrick Henry.
Yes.
And they are going up against a surprising Florida team this year. Florida clinched a couple weeks ago. They laid an egg against Florida State.
All right.
But kind of like what we talked about with Iowa, if they were to play Ohio State, I just don't think Florida's back quite yet. And
I agree. No, Alabama has the SEC on lockdown right now.
I agree. I think this year, the last couple of years, we've kind of seen Alabama a little bit more pedestrian, and I think that kind of put a chip on their shoulder. People are saying, well, is Alabama going to disappear? Is Nick Saban losing it? But I think this year they just came out angry, and they played that way and just demolished people. But so can I say it's fair to say we're unanimous on Alabama in this one?
Yes.
All right. So going to the American, which was kind of a surprise conference this year, two teams who could possibly lose their head coach after this game.
Okay.
In Temple, who's ranked in the top 25, and Houston, who is coached by the offense coordinator that was at Ohio State and won a national championship. So we have a champion on one side and an emerging team on the other. I'm
going to go Temple. I think they looked really good this year. And I don't know much about college football, and I know that. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Temple.
It's good to me. It reminds me of a game that's going to be kind of like how Green Bay and Carolina matched up. You had Green Bay's offense, who with Aaron Rodgers is usually prolific offense.
Yeah.
And that's what Houston reminds me of. They're a prolific offense who can score on just about anybody. But Temple has that nitty gritty tough defense. And I think it's going to be a great matchup, and it's going to be who makes the first mistake. But just to go opposite of you, I'm going to take Houston.
Mm-hmm. Can't be a good team without a good defense.
That's
that
true.
applies to all levels of football.
It does. Offense will win you in the regular season, but defense always wins championships.
Yep.
All right. In the CUSA, Southern Miss, represented by your boy, Brett Favre.
All right.
And Western Kentucky, who was formerly coached by the dad of the Harbaugh brothers. So we got two legends at two schools who were formerly...
I'm sure neither of them will be there.
I agree. Speaking of the Harbaughs, we are here in... Is this Glendale?
Yeah, right now we're in Glendale.
This is Glendale. The Harbaugh family lives in Whitefish Bay. The mom and dad. Yeah, just to throw that out there.
Let's go. Let's go talk to them.
If we can get John and Jim
get them on the show.
I'm all for that.
Have a big debate. I love that.
Which Harbaugh is better? That's what we should debate.
Which Harbaugh is better? What do you think?
I think I'm going to take Jim.
I'm going... I'll take John then.
Okay.
I like being opposite of you. I'll be John.
All right. So who you got? Southern Miss, Western Kentucky.
I'm going to go Southern Miss.
Southern Miss is a surprise this year. Western Kentucky, to me, they're always underrated. They have a high-powered offense, but because they're in a lower conference, people kind of put them to the side, kind of like most mid-majors. But I think Western Kentucky, whether it's to this game or against a bigger school, they're forced to be reckoned with. I'm going with Western Kentucky. Mountain West, I talked about this game the other day. Air Force. I said, Chuck, be proud of your boys because They're going to the championship of the Mountain West. And for any branch, because we've seen the struggles of Army, Navy, and the Air Force, for them to be going to the conference championship,
No, that's good. That's good for sports.
It is. It's
I mean,
good for
and
sports.
you know, Army was once the best team
in the nation.
In the nation,
Right.
I mean,
Triple option.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird things today. Not a lot of people see it, so it's weird for teams.
They had the best scouting with Bill Belichick's dad too.
Yep.
He was their head scout.
And Mike Krzyzewski was the basketball coach at once upon a time.
And Bobby Knight.
So we got Air Force and San Diego State. What are you thinking?
I can't go against the military.
Hey, I'm with you.
I'm going Air Force.
San Diego State, I believe, has a better record, but I'm with you. I'm gonna go with the military as well, and Air Force.
That's an airplane.
Yes, that's what it sounds like before every game. You know, when the jets fly over, something like that. A little louder, but they get the picture. Pac-12, USC, Stanford. USC gave the head coach an extension this week, and Stanford has a player who's fighting for the Heisman, in McCaffrey. But Stanford is at number 7 in the playoffs.
Yep.
So they need a big win this weekend to possibly get into that top 4 if somebody loses.
I think Stanford's gonna win, but I think the big question is by how much.
I agree.
You kind of have to go back to the Big Ten championship last year with Ohio State and Wisconsin. Ohio State ran up the score and it, helped them get into the playoffs. Could be the same situation with the Cardinal.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Ohio State, Stanford actually is behind Ohio State, who doesn't play this weekend.
Yeah. So
Stanford needs a big blowout to kind of help themselves. But as you take Stanford, you know what? I think USC is riding high right now. I'm going to take them. I'm going to take them on the upset. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be like, oh my God, USC just whooped Stanford. But I think it's going to be close the whole game, and it's just going to come down to 1 or 2 key plays.
All right.
Big Ten, Michigan State, Iowa.
I'm going to go Michigan State.
Okay.
I'm going to go. I love Iowa. I've been talking them up for our last 2 episodes, but I think Michigan State will pull out the victory.
I agree. I think Iowa, for the next couple of years, could be one of those teams who sticks around. I mean, they're not going to be like this random 12-0 team who then falls to 7-5 or
Right.
6-6 next year. I think they're here to stay, and they're going to constantly compete with Wisconsin for the West in the Big Ten.
Okay.
I just don't think it's their year quite yet. I don't think they've played enough big games, whereas Michigan State, been there, done that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on Michigan State, but I think the ACC is where we could see a difference here. We got Clemson, who's number 1, against number 10, North Carolina.
Man, if Clemson loses this game, it's going to shake the rankings up big time.
It is. And last night I was watching the playoff ranking show, and one of the things Kirk Herbstreit said was, if UNC wins this game, do they deserve to be in? They're a 1-loss team. They're number 10 right now. And if it's to knock off the number 1 team in the country, do they deserve to go?
That's a tough one. It kind of, you have to go back, does Stanford win?
Right.
What if Alabama loses?
Yeah. There's a whole lot of dominoes that are
I'm gonna go Clemson though.
Okay. I love Clemson. I'm a big Deshaun Watson fan, who's the quarterback.
Yep.
But there's just something fishy about this game. And I smell a rat. I think UNC can upset them. I do. I like Larry Fedora. He's an offensive genius, and I don't know if Clemson, as good as their defense is, can stop the weapons that UNC has. So I'm gonna make a bold statement. I'm taking UNC.
You think UNC are on the heels of victory?
I do. I really do.
The Tar Heels of victory.
Yep. The Tar Heels of victory, which, by the way, upset number 2 Maryland last night in college basketball. So the whole Chapel Hill campus right now is kind of riding a high, and I think that the football team will carry it into the weekend.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So we talked about Mark Richt quite a bit, and
Yes.
for me, the way that I've kind of described Mark Richt meeting with Maryland is similar to how Brewer fans feel about Joe Madden when he got hired by the Cubs. We knew it was a great hire, and it's like, wow, the Cubs just made a very, very good move, and that's upsetting because they're our rival,
Yeah.
and we don't want to see them do well. But if Mark Richt does ultimately end up at Maryland, that's how I feel as a Badger fan. I feel 2 or 3 years, Mark Richt. We saw him do it for 15 years at Georgia. Who's to say he can't do it at Maryland?
Well, and Maryland entered the Big Ten because they wanted a better football organization. I think once you end up in one of the Power 5 conferences, you automatically boost up.
Right.
And this is what is happening with Maryland, and hiring Richt will get them much closer to the top Big Ten teams like Ohio State, Wisconsin, Iowa.
Now, the other team that he met with is Miami, who we all know through the 90s into the early 2000s had a very, very good, I would say, 10 to 15 year run.
They were probably the best team during that era.
During that era, absolutely. But now, the one thing that they do lack is the overall history of the program, because they did have the great 10 years, but we're not going to compare them to like a Notre Dame, a USC, anything like that. But can Mark Richt bring back the Miami history, so to speak, of the 90s and the early 2000s? Could he make that team the Miami that we know?
I hope he can. But I think I talked about this last Friday. Recruiting in Florida is so important right now, and Florida State are on top there, I think, by a lot. The Florida Gators are starting to come back. We see that, with being in the SEC championship game. Miami just needs to get the players. I think if they hire Richt and get some top prospects, I hope we can see them get better.
I agree.
'Cause I like it when the U plays well.
And
I agree. They were a fun team.
I think it's good for college football when you see teams
good for college football, absolutely.
See teams like that do well.
We kind of saw them do okay with Ja'Cory Harris for a while.
Right.
But they certainly were not as good as they were before.
Absolutely. And the one thing that I'm very big in, especially like when I do recruiting, I believe that if you have a homegrown talent that's in your backyard, you keep it home. And if Mark Richt can somehow win that southern peninsula of Florida, the Daytona Beach, Miami, up to Tampa Bay where South Florida is, and just kind of that bottom half of Florida, things can turn around, and we could be talking about Miami much how we're talking about Michigan this year with Jim Harbaugh.
Possibly.
But to stay on Miami, they also interviewed Greg Schiano, Tampa Bay coach.
I like that interview.
Butch Davis, who was a former
interesting
Miami head coach. And the one that kind of caught my eye a little bit, current Mississippi State head coach, Dan Mullen. Now, we all know that the SEC, so to speak, is considered the greener pastures, where a lot of coaches go because they throw the big money around. But is it almost a case where Dan Mullen says, you know what, I got Mississippi State in the top 25. I don't know if I can do better here. And he wants to go somewhere else where maybe he can propel Miami to the top of the ACC and kind of get more national recognition.
And the ACC is doing really good.
They are.
I think. Obviously Florida State winning the championship, but then you have to. Clemson's ranked
this
number
year,
one right now.
Carolina.
UNC's been a solid football team for years now. Yep. Even Duke
and Virginia Tech. Over the last 25 years.
ACC is first and foremost a basketball conference, but they're doing pretty good in football. And having a guy like a current SEC head coach interview for an ACC job, you wouldn't see that ever happen 5 years ago.
Right.
Not a chance.
Absolutely.
And now that this guy's going to interview for the U is very interesting to me.
Yep. And so Central Florida named their head coach this morning, Scott Frost. Scott Frost was the quarterback's coach when Oregon lost to Cam Newton in the national championship. And he is now the offensive coordinator since Chip Kelly left. Now, what you were just talking about with the players from Florida, you have a guy coming from the Chip Kelly system. Mm-hmm. Picture Chip Kelly's system with a whole bunch of Florida kids. Are we looking at the possibility of just something dangerous?
Well, let's take it easy. This is Central Florida.
Blake Bortles is a Central Florida guy. They went to the Fiesta Bowl and upset Baylor.
But they're not going to get I mean, Blake Bortles was probably the best quarterback they've had since Dante Culpepper.
I agree.
So, I mean, he's a once every 10 years kind of guy.
Okay.
So, I'm not...
No,
I don't know.
Not getting too excited about it.
I mean, Scott Frost in Central Florida, he has to rename himself Scott D. Frost.
Oh, yeah, so that way he can get used to the warm weather.
You're not very good with this banter, are you?
I'm not. So what we were talking about before, Georgia's Smart hire. Kirby Smart was named the head coach, defensive coordinator of Alabama. Mm-hmm. The last coordinator to leave Alabama was Jim McElwain, who is now the head coach of Florida. So, I mean, where do you look at Georgia in terms of kind of hiring a guy who's been the hot assistant?
It's an easy hire.
Easy hire
for me. I would say besides Richt, he's the top guy out there currently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have no issues with that. Going to Georgia,
right.
That was probably the top available school right now. So, top head coach, top school.
Right.
Easy match.
So now let me ask you this question. Jared Goff, for the better part of the year, was probably considered the number one quarterback prospect in the country. And Cal has kind of struggled their way through. Came out this morning, their head coach, surprisingly, interviewed for the Missouri job. And there's a possibility that Goff could still come back.
Sure.
But, I mean, it's one of those situations like we mentioned with Dan Mullen, where head coaches are now just kind of like, okay, well, if I can get more money, I'm leaving. And again, it's another SEC school, Missouri, going after another Power 5 conference coach.
Yeah, I think a lot of head coaches have very big egos, and they think if I can recruit a top-name quarterback like this guy, I can definitely do it here with an SEC school. So I think this is just kind of an issue with ego.
Okay.
I don't know, but Missouri's not a bad spot.
No, this year was the first year that I think
I don't have an issue with this.
No, so you have no issue with not to say it's an issue, but
it's Goff's choice wherever he wants to go. If he wants to go somewhere else, more power to him.
Yeah. Just a few other ones. So Lincoln Riley, the offensive coordinator of Oklahoma, is being linked to South Carolina. He was previously the offensive coordinator with Clemson, which then opened the door for who's now the head coach at SMU, Chad Morris. But Lincoln Riley's kind of a hot name, as we talked about Baker Mayfield kind of being in the Heisman race, and Oklahoma is just running through people right now, possibly needing a new offensive coordinator. And then Chris Ash was a former Badger D coordinator.
Definitely, I remember.
Went to Arkansas with Brett Bielema, got fired, left for Ohio State. He's now a co-D coordinator at Ohio State, and he's being linked to Syracuse and Rutgers. So, Chris Ash coming back to the Big Ten, can he fix that? Can he fix a program like Syracuse or Rutgers, do you think?
Well, look at Maryland right now. They're almost on the brink of hiring Richt, possibly.
Yeah.
Mark Richt, and it seems like they're really they're finally adjusting well to being in the Big Ten. That's what Rutgers wants to do. Hiring a guy like Chris Ash would definitely send them on their way.
I agree with you. Other than that, I don't.
All right.
It's been a pretty dull week this week.
Very dull. All right, we're going to take a break, and we will have more. All right? So just sit back, relax, have some Culvers if it's in front of you, and we'll see you in a bit. You're listening to We're Talking Sports, sponsored by... Wait, do we have a sponsor? We don't have a sponsor.
I don't think so.
We don't have a sponsor yet. When are we going to get one?
Somebody
please sponsor us!
Let's go.
There's a game tomorrow. I know that has nothing to do with music, but a football game. And
Who's playing?
I believe a really good team and the Lions. Who's the really good? Oh, the Packers.
The Packers and the Lions.
They haven't been that good lately, but what do you think? What are you looking for tomorrow?
I'm looking for. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Detroit's been playing better, as I mentioned on last week's show.
And it it started
with the Packers.
With the Packers,
And you had asked me. You said, how is Detroit going to play against their next opponent, which
Yeah.
happens to be Green Bay again.
Yep.
Last week because they had played on Thanksgiving,
Mm-hmm.
and I said that they would score 30 points. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Green Bay comes away with a win. That they'll get to 8 wins this year, but it's going to be close. It's going to be close. Detroit still they don't frighten me on defense since losing Sue.
Yeah.
I just think that neither team can really
It
stop anybody
didn't
right now.
seem to bother them last time they played the Packers.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it's going to be more high scoring than that, especially being in the
Okay.
dome this time.
what I am looking for is for Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, and James Jones to catch the ball.
Okay.
Okay,
I can agree with that.
It's gonna be in a dome. No chance of rain or slippery balls or anything like that. If they can hang on to the ball, I think we have a pretty good shot at winning.
Okay, I'm with that because I think that was a big factor in why they lost to Chicago.
Yeah.
A lot of drop balls in that
Yeah,
game.
and
Devontae Adams needs to redeem himself here.
yes. And I'm hoping we can see Jeff Janis play a little bit more on offense. He's been incredible on special teams.
Right. What was it? Back-to-back weeks with a 40-plus yard kick return.
Yep. Hopefully he can bring one to the house tomorrow. I'm not counting on
Great,
it,
but hey, and yeah, like you said, you're not counting on it. I think Janis gives Green Bay something that they haven't had in a while. It's been a
Sure.
while since we've seen a dynamic person returning kicks in Green Bay.
well, and I'm trying to think who our kick returner was. Our kick returner last year was DeJuan Harris.
Yep.
And he wasn't anything special
Right.
at all. And then it was Ty Montgomery, who's I think he'll be our long-term kick returner, but obviously right now he's hurt. And then it was Micah Hyde, who's regularly our punt returner, and I love him at punt returner because. Not because he always, he scores touchdowns and stuff, because he usually doesn't, but he's very reliable.
Yeah.
You
I think when Randall Cobb was in one of his first years, when he was the punt returner, was the last time that we really saw a true dynamic returner. Like you said, Micah Hyde's very consistent.
Yeah.
But Cobb was more so he could return one.
Yep.
He can make a big play on special teams, and that's what Green Bay I think lacks is that third dimension of the game with special teams. They have a great kicking, with Crosby, who's been consistent. But now if they can get a punt return game, I think that helps them even more. Giving Rodgers a short field is something that you never want to see.
Yeah. And that's what makes the Packers so dynamic at times.
At times, right? Absolutely.
They gotta pick it up.
So, I heard a rumor that apparently I get 20 questions to figure out what's inside your head.
Oh, yes. This is our game today. We are going to play a little game called 20 Questions. Right now, I am thinking of an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
That's as much as I'm going to give you right now. If you want any more, you have to ask 20 questions.
And
to
within
figure
20
it out.
questions, I got to guess who this guy is.
Yep. So,
Ooh, okay. Does he play football?
he does not.
No football. Does he play basketball?
He does.
He does. So we have a basketball player. Is he in the NBA?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Hey, college is there too. Is he an active player?
No.
Okay. Is he in the Hall of Fame?
No. That's 5 questions.
Yep. This is very difficult. Did he win any championships?
Not to my knowledge.
Don't you know? Okay. Would he be considered a great player?
No.
No. Okay. Did he come out of high school?
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so. Okay.
This is great radio right here. Oh, so good. Everybody's tuning out. They have no idea.
They have no idea.
Yeah, play along.
Okay.
Play along, people. Live tweet. Hashtag WTS.
Let's see. Did he make any All-Star teams? Was he an All-Star?
Oh crap! I don't know that.
Okay.
I'm
okay.
I'm
That's
gonna
all right.
guess no.
Okay. Did he play with only one team?
No.
No. Okay. Did he play most of his career in the East?
No.
No, in the West. Okay. Is he a former MVP?
No.
No. Okay.
You're at 12 questions right now.
That's so terrible. Questions go by so fast. Did he play for the Spurs?
No.
Okay. Did he play for an existing team? Can I say that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the Supersonics no longer exist.
Yeah. No, he played
Okay.
for an existing team.
Okay. Play for the Lakers?
No. You got 5 questions left.
Okay. I know you're fond of this, so I'm not even. This isn't a question, so I don't know if this counts, but I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna go with Bill Walton.
No.
Okay.
That counts as a
That
question.
counts as a question. That's all right. Such a strict guy over here.
He won a championship.
With Portland. Portland won one with Bill
On
Walton.
the Celtics.
Bill Walton.
Bill Walton.
Are you sure you're not thinking of Bill Russell?
No. Bill
Okay,
Walton was
okay.
Bill Walton was Parrish's backup.
I guess you learn something new every day.
Oh my goodness.
No championship.
I won a championship with the Celtics. No,
No.
yeah.
No.
You got 4 questions. Come on.
All right. Well, seeing as you're a Mavs fan, I'm gonna see if does he play for the Mavericks, or did he play for the Mavericks?
He did.
He did. Okay. Does he currently coach an NBA team?
No.
No. Okay. There goes Jason Kidd out the window.
Okay.
Man,
I should go a little easier next time.
probably
You can do it next week.
next week. Okay.
Come up with an athlete.
Play for Dallas. I don't know all of their names, but
I
is it
wonder-
one of the Berries? Is it one of the Berry
No,
brothers?
it is
Okay,
not.
Okay, so
You
not one of
have-
the Berries.
1 question left, and then you have to have your final guess.
Okay, trying to think of former Mavericks players.
I don't know. Maybe
Brian
you don't.
Cardinal.
No, it's not.
Okay, we talked about him the other day on the.
All right. Maybe you don't know who this is.
Okay,
What's your final answer?
I'm trying to think if he actually played for Dallas. I think he did, but since you said the West, I'm Peja Stojakovic.
No. But this person also played for the Kings and played for the Mavericks. You already lost, but
Yeah.
I'm-
The only person that I can think of, I don't know if he
Guess.
played for the Mavericks, but Bobby Jackson.
I wonder. It wasn't him, but I'm trying to. Maybe he did play. I think he did play for the Mavericks for a while. Doug Christie.
Oh.
Doug Christie.
I thought Christie played with the Lakers. Wasn't he on the championship teams with the
I
Lakers?
don't think
The
so.
three-peats?
I
We're
don't
gonna have to
think
look
so.
that up. I think we gotta look that up. I thought Doug Christie was on the Lakers dynasty teams.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Doug Christie. Oh, that's a good one.
He played for the Lakers from 93 to 94. I don't.
Okay, so he was not on the championship team.
Yeah, so I was right in all my questions. Never made an All-Star game. Never won a championship.
Okay.
He
Doug
was.
Christie, that's sneaky.
He was on the NBA All-Defensive Team in 2003.
Okay, that's sneaky. That's sneaky. Doug Christie. Wow,
Yeah,
what a
he-
name drop.
He played for the Mavericks for 1 year.
All right, that is a name drop. So I guess I'll have to get you back next week then.
Just no college people. I'm not good with.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll think of something
yeah, I
deep in
got
the dark tunnel.
Mark Presley. He's the backup fullback for Bowling Green. Like, oh, come on.
No. I wouldn't do that to you. But I might go something dark. You know, something along the
Something
lines
dark?
of like a Mark Brunell that you just somebody you
That's
wouldn't
not
think
dark.
of. Somebody you wouldn't think.
That's not dark, though. What do you think? What's your definition of dark?
Well, when you something like
he's a
that,
dark
with
guy.
No. It'd be like something that you can answer all the questions. I mean,
Like a
as an
dark
obvious
horse,
answer.
you mean?
But
dark
somebody
horse?
just that you wouldn't think of it. But then when you hear the name, you're like,
I know Mark Brunell.
that kind of fits.
I like that. That was fun. I'm not sure how fun it was for the listeners. I'm going to have to listen to that again.
Yeah.
See how that was. But, you got anything else? I mean, I think we're set here.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, Wednesday's kind of, it's middle of the week, not a whole lot going on right now.
Yeah,
but
I think we had a good show. I thought we did well. Third show.
But I mean, hey, like with all the stuff coming out, with all the college jobs open, and free agency really getting underway, I think Friday's looking to be kind of an up show. 2 days for some colleges to make some big decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Some NBA games. The Bucks got a rough schedule coming up. Portland,
Think so?
Golden State, and the Clippers.
Whew.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to be them.
I get to work all of them. So
All right, fun. Hey, get punch DeAndre Jordan for me.
punch DeAndre Jordan.
Punch him for me, and get Chris Paul's autograph.
Okay.
Steph Curry's too.
I will try.
Maybe have Steph Curry shoot a 3-pointer and then take the ball right away and then give it to me and you can say Steph Curry made a 3-pointer with this ball.
Okay.
So that's your mission.
That's my mission.
That's your mission this week.
So some good news though for the listeners. I think we have 2 planned guests coming up.
We have 2 planned guests. Yes.
Coming up pretty soon. Chuck Mosley.
Chuck Mosley.
Probably
he's
talk some basketball.
fan favorite.
And Professor Dan Underberg.
Ooh, the professor coming in.
Yeah,
Teach us a thing or two about sports.
Yeah, Badger alumni. We're gonna talk Badger football with him and just have some questions for him and kind of see where he takes us.
I can't wait for that. I cannot wait.
That's
it's going to be so much fun.
We're finally starting to get guests, guys. So you got to make sure you keep tuning in. We got to come up with some more and more surprises for you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Richie, thank you for being a part of this show.
Thank you.
Like I said, I think we've had a great first 3 episodes. And also, go on our Facebook page, vote who's the best Carolina Panther of all time.
Yep, he's saying vote Julius Peppers, by the way.
No, I'm going to say vote Steve Smith on this one. But we've already had a couple really good response, people throwing out other names. Jake Delhomme won.
Mushid Muhammad.
Yep, Jordan Gross, offensive tackle. That was a good one. And John Casey, longtime kicker.
Yeah, and for maybe even some fans that might be a little bit younger than us, if you think Cam Newton's the best, throw Cam Newton out there.
I think he's in the conversation.
Yeah, very much
He's
so.
in the conversation.
Yeah,
I don't think he is the best. I think it's Steve Smith, but
Julius Peppers.
I think we're going to leave it there. All right, thank you guys so much for listening. Catch us on Friday.
See you Friday.